Hey guys, welcome to another video. This is going to be my first quick tips video. Now, it seems like everybody on YouTube has their own version of Peter McKinnon's 2 Minute Tuesday. So I'm going to be making a version of quick tips, which shows you something useful in as fast of a format as possible. And if you like the sound of that, please leave a comment down below to let me know what you think. And real quick before we start the video, if you guys don't know who I am, my name is Brendan. I'm a wedding photographer in South Texas. And the whole point of this channel is to help you take better pictures, better video, how to grow your wedding photography business or photography business. So if that's something that interests you, you might want to hit the subscribe button. And those of you who are subscribers to the channel, I'm just going to point out the elephant in the room. Yes, my beard is growing in. Anyway, so let's start the video. So in this video, as you can tell by the title, I'm going to show you my most used setting for my Sony A7III mirrorless camera. Now, it's not what you're thinking. It's not eye autofocus. It's not the vast majority of excellent picture profiles that Sony has to offer. Just wait and watch the video, and believe me, these settings are going to save you a lot of time and a lot of blown out images. So prior to going with a mirrorless system, I was shooting on DSLRs for my wedding photography. And a recurring issue that I would have is that I would have my settings dialed in for indoor shooting. And as you know, maybe the shutter speed might be a little bit lower, my ISOs would be a lot higher, I have wide open apertures. And a common issue that I would have, this situation would be the couple just had their first kiss, then they're celebrating and they're walking down the aisle, and I'm following them and I'm taking pictures with my settings, my exposure settings that are set for indoors. And then the couple would exit the church and my settings would still be set for indoor. And of course, in mirrorless systems, you can't see the instant exposure change through the mirror, through the viewfinder, which is covered by a mirror. And so unfortunately, in the past, I've had overexposed images when we step outside the church and we're still taking photos, but I forget to change my exposure. Now I know what you're thinking. Bren, a real photographer would have known to increase the shutter speed. Bren, a real photographer would have known to prepare for this exact situation, adjust the shutter speed, adjust the ISO back down in a split second. A real pro would have known that Epstein didn't kill himself. What? Look, we're all humans, we all make mistakes. We're not perfect. But these cameras don't make mistakes, and they are perfect. And that is the greatest thing about Sony mirrorless. And we live in an amazing time right now where we have technology at our fingertips, and that helps us prevent from making these types of mistakes. Anyways, so the setting that I want to talk about is aperture priority mode. Now, I know what you're thinking. You're saying, what? Aperture priority mode? That's it? Just hear me out. On the Sony A7 III camera, you have the ability to put your camera in aperture priority mode. You have the ability to set your minimum shutter speed, and you also have the ability to set your maximum allowable ISO in aperture priority mode. So what does this mean? This means that I can set my minimum shutter speed to 1/250th of a second, and I can make my maximum allowable ISO in aperture priority mode. I do about 8,000. And what does this mean? So that means if I'm in a super low light situation and I have reached 8,000 ISO, only then will my shutter speed start to decrease from 250th of a second. Once you put these settings in, it's gonna make a lot of sense. So what this allows me to do now is I can keep my camera in aperture priority mode, and then that same situation where I'm shooting the couple walking down the aisle indoors, and then we go outside, my shutter speed is gonna crank right up to compensate for all of a sudden we have a lot of light outdoors. And this has saved me so many images. It is not even funny. And so when I'm in aperture priority mode, I don't have to think about anything besides adjusting my aperture and the exposure compensation dial on the camera. And so that's it. All I'm doing is I have these two dials on my thumbs. I'm adjusting the aperture and I'm adjusting exposure compensation, and then the camera does the rest. Now I know what you're thinking, Brandon, you're not in full manual mode. What, you're a pro photographer and you're not using manual mode? Yes, you're absolutely correct. My thinking on this is that if we have technology at our fingertips that allows us to not make mistakes while we're shooting, why not use it? We need to get over this egotistical viewpoint of photography and saying, oh, we only need to be shooting in manual mode. That is not true. Your camera is very smart, and it is way smarter and more perfect than we will ever be. And by adjusting these settings, it allows you to lessen the amount of mistakes that you're gonna make during a wedding. 80% of the wedding is shot using these settings. So let's get into it. Okay, so we have our Sony mirrorless camera now. And the first thing that you need to do is you need to change your dial and make sure that it is on A, which is aperture priority mode. Okay, so then the next thing we're gonna do is in menu 1, page 9, okay? What you're gonna do is you're gonna go to ISO, and you're gonna put your ISO at auto, okay? And then the next step is you're gonna scroll over to the right, and now you're gonna see this thing that says ISO auto minimum. And that one, I keep it at 100. And then scroll over to the right again, and we're gonna select our auto maximum ISO. So this is the setting that you put where you're gonna tell your camera this is the max ISO that I'm going to allow before we start dragging our shutter down. And so in my case, I'm comfortable at 8,000 ISO. In some situations, I'll bump it up to 10,000 ISO, but majority of the time I never even hit 8,000. So I keep it at 8,000. Once my camera hits 8,000 ISO, then it's gonna start dropping the shutter speed. Tab 1, page 9, we're gonna go to ISO auto minimum shutter speed. And so what I have this set at is 1/250th of a second. And so what does that mean? That means in aperture priority mode, I'm always gonna be shooting at 1/250th of a second no matter what, until I hit 8,000 ISO, which we had set prior. Then it'll start dragging the shutter down. And this is huge. This is huge. Once you set these settings and you go to aperture priority mode, you're never gonna wanna go back to manual mode. I promise you. This is so much easier. So now I have it on aperture priority mode. I have my settings dialed in. And now no matter what I do, if I'm in a dark situation, if I go to a bright situation, I don't have to think about anything. I just have to think about setting my aperture. And this is amazing. Hoping this video was not too long, and I hope you got something new and useful for your Sony cameras. Like I said, once I discovered how to do these settings, I have not gone back to manual mode unless I'm using strobe. And so I hope you find this tip helpful. Try it out and see for yourself. If you don't like it, you can go ahead and give this video a thumbs down. But if you did like it, make sure you give it a thumbs up, comment, subscribe, hit that little bell notification because it helps the algorithm. And I will see you guys in the next video. Peace.